I guess the question is around co-creating a multi-generational neighbourhood. And are we all familiar with the basic concept of co-creating and what that might engage? Because we had a really useful exchange before the lunch there, because we had one point of view, which was co-creating as a good thing that gives you lots of different perspectives. And then another view came in, which was co-creating can be a bit of a challenge because lots of different perspectives have lots of different agendas. And so, is it the case that there's a sort of sweet spot in terms of having some inclusion, but not too much inclusion? Or in fact, is that maybe more a problem with the methodologies that we use, and we can actually include everyone and go more towards a universal design with some reasonable accommodations and so on and so forth? So Sam, the idea of co-creating, and particularly around the University of the Third Age, how do you make sure that there are a lot of different voices and that they are sort of equally legitimately heard in designing what University of the Third Age does?
I think with the University of the Third Age, it is at its heart, it's a co-creating organisation. And people come together, they decide what they want to do, they decide what they want to focus on, where they want to do it, and how they want to operate. So it's very much the doing is in the hands of the people.
You know that saying that the problem with democracy is the people. So yeah. What happens when people don't agree?
So I think, when people don't agree, I think what people do is say, well, could you start another group? And actually another group starts and people come together and they do that thing that perhaps not everybody else wanted to learn. And I think if you're able to outline some core foundation principles that apply to most of the people that want to be involved, you've at least got a foundation on which to build on. Because yes, not everybody is ever going to agree. That's the nature of humanity.
Okay. Would someone like to fire away with a question now for Alex, Elena, Beata, or Janet?
I think you've got to look at co-creation as a multi-method approach that happens throughout the innovation pathway. So it's multiple conversations, but you've got to have that methodology right. So in terms of, say, engaging with older people, you've got to make sure that those conversations are accessible. So that's bouncing around from going out to communities, having an element of digital engagement, so that if people are in remote locations or they have low mobility, they can still contribute to the design of a new product or service. I think there's no one size fits all, as Sam was saying earlier. We've got to look at what we're developing, what we want out of the citizen engagement, and how we can meet the needs and the evolving needs of the end users of that particular product or service.
My name is Robert Sprigg. I've been working on the Nebworth Neighbourhood Plan. We've just had an example of the exact opposite, how not to do it, last week, when our district council said that they were doing a consultation with us about walking and cycling plan. And what they gave us was a random map, looked like somebody had thrown a set of darts at it, with crossings and modal filters in various different places. And basically there was a riot when they presented this, because they hadn't given any thought to our village whatsoever.
Why do you think they did it like that? I mean, do you know why they took the approach they did?
I think it's because the government said that they could have loads of money for improving walking and cycling schemes. And the council said, oh, free money, we'll have some of that, please.
I agree, and I see also in the chat, Janet agrees. Lots of consultation processes are just a process to give information and to pretend that a participatory process is happening. But as we have seen today, many beautiful and meaningful proposals and designs by Think City, HTA, Jockey Club Design. These catalytic projects are needed to make this shift in the planning paradigm. So we mainstream multi-generational neighborhood planning, but at the same time, we need these to be scaled up. We need to work on multiple planes in parallel. So this participation needs to happen on multiple levels. So the visions of the future of living should be integrated both in strategic development plans, in city and municipality plans, also in national and regional frameworks. And all these processes need to be participatory. So we have been banging our heads about it for quite some time at UN Habitat as well. And we've gathered a lot of knowledge from all corners of the world, trying to implement these participatory processes on this scale. And we created this step-by-step guide to support local governments and urban actors to better understand the needs of communities and to better understand participatory planning processes. Because there are multiple steps that multiple challenges that prevent us from implementing participatory processes. They could be related to policy. They could be related to lack of interest or lack of awareness. So there are multiple ways to try and counteract, at least address these challenges.
So locally, e-seniors, we work at social centers or senior clubs. And what we do, and it's the most successful, is very simple, is come over for tea time and let's discuss. And we don't have anything. We don't have charts. We don't have many rules. We have a set of questions and we discuss about it. And the second comment was, at what level do you work? And we worked for some project at a very micro level, like how would you decorate a room, even a room, or what kind of architecture do you like? And here you can really work with people depending on the questions that you ask them. You give them the power to influence something. And you discover that seniors, for example, have some architectural preferences, like round shapes and things with wood and with colors. And so at a micro level, you can do a lot of things. And you can start at very simple things like decorating a room, or what do you like in terms of art. You can do co-creation in terms of also creativity, go and create something yourself. So yeah, I just wanted to take the reflection that way.
One thing is that always the same users come to co-creation sessions. My question to you is what about the no user? What is your suggestion and guidelines for engaging the no users? Because no users is very important information source, because we have to be understanding why people are not using services or whatever we are developing.
Sorry, that was about accessing communities that are kind of seldom heard in innovation and co-creation. Is that correct? Yeah. So I think that leads me to a term that I really dislike, which is people throw around the term hard to reach communities. And at the end of the day, they're not hard to reach, we're just not working hard enough. If we want to hear from those seldom heard communities, we can go out and we can speak to them and we can meaningfully involve them.
Everybody wants a say in how they live their lives, given the chance. And what we have to do is go and make that effort to have the conversation. And yes, of course, it all comes down to power, without a shadow of a doubt. Some people have the money and the power to get things done. Other people don't, and they have to use what is available. But we're all here, I think, trying to change that balance of power, and trying to bring people together to find a common way forward that's going to be successful for the people that are providing, the people that have a commercial interest, because of course those people have to make sure that works too, but ultimately providing communities that people can and want to live in successfully.
Oftentimes my generation, younger generations, slightly older generations aren't actually part of a local community. We're very transient. We don't have the money to own our own homes. So I was wondering, what is going to happen with people who are now in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, when they are older, when we're starting to talk about like where they are going to live, where are they going to live?
It depends on the scale of the thing that you're trying to do, doesn't it? I mean, for example, often the only people who put in an objection to a planning application are the people who currently live in the place. If you get people who are hoping to live in somewhere to comment, as well as the people who object to the planning application, who don't want anything new built, then the planning committee have not only people who don't like it to look at. So you just need to be creative about who are the people who are affected by this, who would hope to live here, and how do we reach them? But I agree, it's a very tricky thing of if you only talk to those who've already got, rather than all the ones who hope to at some point.
You made a comment initially around, around engaging people makes them feel happy. But in the case of planning, it's a totally different thing, because people come back saying, oh, we thought you really wanted to take our you wanted to take our opinion into consideration, but you haven't done that. But they have been engaged in a co-creation way where you say, oh, did you collaborate? Your duty to collaborate. And you would take that. So how do you ensure that there is real meaningful co-creation process taking place? And how do you bridge the language gap as well?
Yes, there are parameters about what you can and can't do within a particular health context. But being able to explain the box, if I could put it that way, that you are working in, so people understand the parameters of what can be taken into account and what can't, I guess, is a start. And the other thing that occurred to me while you were talking about this before was on the younger people looking for somewhere to live and build a community, and people already living. In planning applications, do representatives of the people for whom you're trying to build something, so maybe in this case you're talking about younger people, do younger people, cohorts of younger people and cohorts of the existing tenants ever come together to have that conversation in a room that says, we need this planning because we have got nowhere to live. We don't want you to come here because we don't want you to build in that space, but actually at least bringing them together, they can have that conversation and they've got some understanding of where each other's coming from. Because if you're having a one-sided conversation, you're always going to be upset about it, I suspect, because you don't understand the perception or the views or the needs of the other people that you need to take into account.
Can I also... Yeah.
Okay,
build on that
just quickly.
Sorry, very quickly. I think it would be unrealistic and unfair to expect businesses just to go ahead and co-create. I think anyone can have a chat, but it's not that easy to then go, right, okay, we've got these insights, how do we make best use of them? So I think we need to be aware of, say, organizations like ours at the UK National Innovation Centre for Ageing and Voice, where for 15 years we've been co-creating in health research and innovation for ageing. So it's about putting a support network around innovators and policymakers where we can support them to do co-creation well. I think it's just an unrealistic expectation just to say you need to co-create and get on with it.
So I really like this question because it's something I certainly struggle very much with, where engagement is part of the co-creation process, but because you're involved in the process doesn't necessarily mean you get what you want. But people anticipate that's what co-creation means. Yeah, please.
So David Orr, Clarion Housing Association. I think I was just about to make the point that you've just made. Right. I'm very anxious actually about the term co-creation, because I think it's a term professionals use about an engagement with people who wouldn't dream of using that word in their day-to-day lives. And we have to be very, very, very careful not to do that, because you create othering language if we're not careful. I have the same feelings, just as a matter of interest, about the term pro-social. I hate it with a passion for exactly that reason. I'm not pro-social, I just get on with living my life, but we expect other people to be, so we have to be very careful about that. The second thing is that it's not really co-creating when you've got a cohort of people who are well-resourced and have big voice, who want absolutely nothing to change. And until we can find some way of marginalizing that view in favor of you get people in the room with generation rent trying to have the conversation, but the people who hold the power are ignoring that, and the people who are well-housed, articulate and wealthy are just saying no to it. So I think, you know, we have to be realistic about what you have to do. This is not a polite process. If you want things to change, you have to kind of batter down the doors. And just very quickly on code of conduct. It's a benign thing, a code of conduct, that often helps to deliver improved outcomes and improved behaviors. But if I sign up to a code of conduct and say co-creation is going to be part of how I do this, who's policing it?